Our next session is a fireside chat between Mr. Bhragu Haritas from ETCIO and Mr. Archie Jackson, Senior Director and Head of Information Technology and Information Security, Incedo. Jackson is a senior technology professional with more than 18 years of insightful experience in IT infrastructure design, implementation, and operations with a strong service management, leadership, and digital transformational skills.
While the digitally connected age has generated several business benefits, it has also led to the creation of more sophisticated cyber threats. Given the highly connected environment companies work in, cyber risk is a top-of-mind industry issue. Businesses invest a lot of time and money on digital transformation projects. However, not able to cope up with the new emerging cyber threats might lead these ambitious projects towards failure. To throw more light on securing digital transformation, we have with us Mr. Archie Jackson, who is the Senior Director and Head of IT and IS at Incedo. Welcome on the Fireside Chat, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you.
To start off with, how do you see emerging cybersecurity threats impacting the enterprises?
Well, if you look at the legacy cyber threats and cyber scenarios, as of now, the enterprises are now connected digitally. And as we can see the digital transformation that is happening across the board with the digital analytics, data analytics, deep learning and all of that, the entire cyber risk framework is evolving. If you look at the overall cyber risk architecture, it has been, it has completely transformed. By transformation, I mean these have been into various 0 days threats that are there compared to the ones which were having signatures. The digital analytics as well as deep learning that is there, artificial intelligence, that has all been encapsulated into various vulnerability options with the, across various available options that are there. And if you look at the enterprises, the entire function, which is the security function, it is now interlinked. Earlier, it used to be as a silo which was operating as a security framework. Now, it is by design. Every architecture that is there, say it be cloud, say it be analytics, say it be anything, it's all now into a design which would be security, privacy as well as confidentiality. Privacy has played a very important role nowadays. Earlier it has been, although it had been having a lot of importance earlier as well, but the awareness around privacy with the coming GDPR has evolved. Now we are also coming up with various other global frameworks around privacy, and with that importance around privacy, the security frameworks, the risk frameworks are evolving. So, for an enterprise to look at from a security framework standpoint, they need to have the security organization should not sit outside the technology. It should be incorporated within the design of a technology as well as digital transformation, all of that interlinked. To further add, if we look at further into the what do we call the legacy technology that was there. It used to be as an enabler for the business, so where business has been operating in silos. Now, as of today, the technology are transforming, the key enabler for the transformation of any business. Look at Uber, look at Airbnb, any of these organizations which are digitally transforming, they are riding that technology. And with the connected organizations in terms of digital aspects, the security plays a very important role.
So, what are the kind of risks that must be considered by organizations while going through digital transformation?
The major risk, I would say, is not a security or privacy risk to start with. These risks are more into the architectural design. Let's start with cloud. The cloud, as per the global understanding, most of the security outbreaks, the vulnerability that has been there, it's actually because of improper or insufficient design. The people who are actually architecting the solutions, those must have right domain understanding and knowledge. And then we should look at the security as a second aspect instead of looking at, and that's why I was saying by design is primarily very important. It's simply to explain, I may have a very good house, I may have a very good door and all highly secure windows and doors, but the way we architect the house, it's not important how stronger the lock is, it's the way the architected house is, so that the aspects which are more easy to break, not only the lock. So that's how the overall handshake works.
What are the key initiatives that security leaders must prioritize?
Well, the key initiatives, if I talk about, it's as I started with, it's looking at the confidentiality, privacy and security, these three aspects that are there. The risks that could be looked at, those are more into the way these setups are architected. Now, with the legacy, we already have enough solution from technology aspects which enables the solution in terms of security and privacy and avoid any outbreaks. But as we are transforming digitally, the analytics that is there from analytics standpoint, if we say data is completely there as available for anybody and everybody over dark web, that can be used as an analytics because the market is being competitive. And that is the root cause around having that competition, because with the analytics people are competing in terms of the businesses. Since the competition, the opportunities are very less. As an example, if I have as a consumer, I would have a single opportunity in a, let's say, 12 months period to replace the tires of my car. Now, within that opportunity that I would have after a period of duration of 12 months, let's say X product vendor, another product vendor would have a single opportunity to catch my eye. Now, with the analytics, they make sure they catch my eye from all different aspects. If I go through Amazon, those would be showing up over Facebook, Instagram and other those applications. I mean, they are right at their part because they are being competitive. However, the way that data is being used, my user behavior that is being captured, from a user understanding, how well I am aware of, that is very important. So, at the very start, the user understanding around why things are happening, that's what I actually preach around. To start with, things are very simple. It's more of a, I mean, we need not look at technologies to solve problems as the first aspects. First, we need to look at people who are the end users, the people who are involved into designing, people who are actually the enabler in terms of the technology. Those people should have the mindset. Security actually is not a, I mean, if as an opportunity, it's very difficult for anybody to look to foresee a career graph into security. It's actually the mindset, because people who have that specific mindset of asking why, questioning what is happening around me and why that is happening. So, people who have the capability to unlearn stuff, that is where security mindset comes into picture. Why I am saying so? For example, let's ask anybody a simple question. Why would it be, or which would be complex, or which would be easier to break as a password? A complex password or a lengthy password? The common question that I ask whenever I conduct any session with the universities or colleges and all, and the very common answer that I get is the complex password is tough to break, lengthy password can be easier to break. However, that understanding is coming because of the human behavior. So, as a security personnel, we need to understand what the devices, what these algorithms understand or interpret instead of me as a human. For example, the answer to my question is a lengthy password is difficult to break compared to a complex password. Let's say I use capital, I use alphabets as well as some alphanumeric numbers. These can easily be looked at from a rainbow table available over dark web, and then we can simply look at and find those hashed passwords easily from any of the password cracking tool. Compared to if I create a password that I am with you today at 9 a.m. It's a lengthy sentence with some alphanumeric numbers as well. It would be easier for me to remember, but it would be much more difficult to break out. Why? It works on ASCII coders. For example, these passwords, whenever we feed these passwords into any of the portal, these are first converted into hash. These hashes are then computed into a specific format. If for a computer to break those passwords, they would run through a first coder, identify the first alphabet, then work through another ASCII option. It will continue to roll over a processing period, and after an end duration, it would be able to identify the permutation of that particular password. That's as simple as that. If a lengthy password is there, the lengthier the password is, the longer it would take to break. So, if I use connected computers to break any passwords or an ASCII coder, for a simple password, or I would say a simple password that is complex from my human understanding, because it is difficult for me to remember. That's my user understanding. So, since it is difficult for me to remember, a computer will also not be able to crack that. That's the common understanding. However, the lengthier the password is, tougher it is to break. And why I am actually emphasizing on this as an example is because this is how we unlearn stuff. Because this is how we have learned over the period. Having a complex password is tough to break, as simple as that. So, that is we buy that and continue building our thoughts over that. For a security personnel or a person into privacy, these people should have the capability and potential to question what they already know. If we look at anything that we know, the simplest thing that we know, however, questioning why it is there, that is the core platform of a security mindset. This enables us to overrule the social engineering aspects. Social engineering, I may be conversing very friendly to you, and over a period I get to know a lot of information from you. We get connected as a first acquaintance, and I may be using your information over whatever the conversation is, and then capturing it for my own benefit. So, overall, with that level of mindset, that's the common point that I am emphasizing. With that specific mindset, we would be able to, with those questions, repeated questions of what we already know, we would be able to overrule the any behavior around social engineering. Because I get, for example, I get an SMS. I get an SMS that I am getting a credit of X amount as a tax refund. Social engineering utilizes empathy, greed, or fear. Any of these aspects are utilized for compromising our financials, privacy, or whatever for their benefit. Now, the moment I get that SMS, the greed may trigger in, and I may just look at clicking those options as per my benefit. However, if I question why, because I have already submitted my tax returns and I am not entitled for any refund, however, the SMS is misleading, I should be able to question whatever is coming my way. I mean, on those different various aspects. Now, coming to an enterprise aspects, any personnel who is having that level of mindset, that level of understanding, people who can question what is happening within the organization, those are the right people. The culture in terms of the leadership top down. When any solution is being developed, let's say a platform which is utilizing multi-cloud environment, say it be AWS, say it be Azure, say it be whatever GCP and all. We blame these platforms, we blame these private public cloud environment at times for their configurations and all, for our compromises. However, the root cause is primarily the way we design these stuff, the way we integrate these stuff, the way we identify the third party partners within the organization. There may be third party partners which are working with us, and then over a period, over that particular project, we will take a back seat and let them drive from the front. That's again the improper culture, because we should always be driving even if any service is outsourced to a third party partner. That should also be a vision around the organization, so that they control whatever is happening and all the configurations that are there. They should still be looking all those configurations as an aspect. So now, further to add, with all the transformations that are happening, AI, deep learning, analytics primarily, RPA automation, that's already there, which are automating our basic lives. But with an interlinkage of analytics and deep learning, people are utilizing these concepts into security. And how that is actually helping us, or for any enterprise or anybody, is the way, instead of a manual effort, I would have more precise, more easier way to get the, utilize the big space. For example, if you look at threat intelligence, threat intelligence is the concept which connects to a big data environment at first. Now, with connected big data environment, instead of me as a single silo organization or any product or an offering, I would have an opportunity to get connected to a vast environment instead of looking at any individual to source that information. Let's go back, antivirus, viruses, simple. Antiviruses detect viruses through a signature. They contain it, sandboxes, and all of that. That's legacy, long going process. It has been there since ages. With 0 days, threats are hidden. We have those APTs which hide in a particular environment for a very long time, and then which are programmed to trigger at a specific duration at a specific device. You may be a weak point within a particular organization, and you may be having a higher privilege. Access management may be another problem in an enterprise, where there may be privileges and accesses given based on hierarchies instead of usage. So, in those areas, the vulnerability is very easy. So, people can target specific people, identify to penetrate into an organization, and then use those route to attack, say, finance, HR, and all those servers and all. So, that's how, again, the overall understanding from an enterprise standpoint, any organization or security leader, those should have a clear linkage and understanding with the legacy technology as well as the current evolving technologies around security.
Okay, so you have mentioned about deep learning and AI. How do you see these technologies impacting the security strategies of enterprises?
They have already impacted, I would say. These are the key technologies as an enabler for a security, for any security tool set. Let's say at some point in time when Windows 98 or 95 was there, I had an option to install an antivirus. I was still running internet over a dial-up connection, and without using an antivirus, I would be easily using my computers. As of now, or even over the past duration, with ransomware and all of that, antiviruses are the key endpoint solutions that are there. The evolution of this is the EDR, MDR, and all of that. EDR is, these are antiviruses or the endpoint solutions. These are not sufficient for any endpoint. However, utilizing these analytics, deep learning, which primarily are utilized through threat intelligence platforms. There are various products which are in the market, and they are awesome products. And for example, let's say if on a large enterprise with, let's say, 100,000 users, I would not have that visibility over my SOC, SIEM or anything to actually penetrate deep dive into a specific user level and getting the information of what the activities are being performed at a particular endpoint. With threat intelligence platforms, various products that are there in the market, these can give me a pre-configured information. For example, if I have a policy, an organizational policy where command prompt is disabled. Now, any program, let's say a Word document having a scripted batch file in it, an email with a malicious link, or anything that triggers a command prompt to, or an initiation to turn on a command prompt, that can be easily governed and monitored through these threat intelligence platforms. And it can also give you deep dive information around which application triggered it, what was the cause, what was the traverse of that particular application that entered into the environment, so that you can actually contain those problems within an organization. And that is what the need of hour is, because if you look at the legacy softwares, legacy security applications, those are all outdated. I would say remove the antiviruses. It's not necessary. Instead of that, we should have those endpoint sensible solutions which govern end to end. With the further evolution, for example, Microsoft, let's say Amazon, all of that, they have inbuilt solutions within them. With addition, so we have a choice. For example, we can configure these at a hardware level over a firewall. We can configure those at an endpoint level through an antivirus. We can also configure those through a threat intelligence solution separately as an EDR or MDR. We can also configure those through, let's say, various CASB or cloud-based solutions. So all of that, it's not necessary that we have all these solutions in an enterprise to control it. Otherwise, the other problem, the efficiency, the performance for which the organization is functioning, that would be impacted, because all of these, over and above, we have those firewalls. So all of these would have those hops and add latency to the traverse of the traffic. So looking at the best possible solutions, integrating them through the current cutting edge technologies. Ideally, my recommendations are more into the solutions which utilizes analytics as well as deep learning. And I'm a very good advocate of threat intelligence solutions, and that's what I usually recommend, and also look at having those in every enterprise, because that's without which the future of cloud digital is not that prominent. Because as we move, the requirement as of day to day is, as an analogy, I would say, I should be at an intersection of a traffic where the red lights are not turned on. So all the cars, all the traffics are going haphazard, and I'm at the intersection. But I should still be avoiding myself from getting hit. So that means everything should be public, everything should be open, because that's the need of the hour. We are completely into a connected environment, and still being secure and private. However, these everything is very easy to achieve and configure and obtain if we have the right framework. For example, there may be compliance and I would say the governance and compliance requirement. Let's say GDPR as a simple example, which is very common nowadays and widely replicated across all offshore organizations which are delivering offshore services to Europe. With some of the Southeast Asian countries, some American states which are coming up with various, 2020 we are coming up with California privacy law as well, privacy policy, where we also, as in any enterprise, we should look at what the demand is around those governance. However, as a benchmark, GDPR is a very easy way to understand and look at. Solutions are already there from various providers, where if we have a consent, if we have devices stationed in a particular region, where even if it is a cloud environment, we can look at having those cloud servers in a specific region and then access those. However, there may be further technology solutions with which we can enhance the latency that may come in because of the server being stationed at a specific country and not at an offshore location. However, these things are all workable, and the reason is very legitimate why we should still be connected globally and having a secure and private environment, because the way we are connected nowadays, it takes a few seconds for anybody to be compromised. And so it's actually more of a user understanding or a designer's understanding where security and privacy gets compromised, and usually we blame technology. It's so emphasis has always been from my end into the user behavior, user understanding, the awareness, how we can make things simplified, and the awareness that should be there. So that's all about it.
Measuring ROI about information security has always been difficult because the benefits are intangible and qualitative. What are your views about this?
It's the simplest answer to this question is how easy we can explain the requirement and importance to a 5-year-old. If I'm able to explain the importance of the security and privacy to a 5-year-old, the ROI is achieved. So, for example, we invest into fire extinguishers, the ROI would only be received unless until there is a fire. So, ROI is there depending on the huge amplitude of loss that can happen. So, depending on organizations which are, let's say an organization which is into digital transformation and digital services, the reputation of that organization is very high, that should be maintained, and based on which the ROI gets the higher side of it, compared to an organization which is let's say local organization which is into a batch process which does not require any confidential and important data. For that, ROI is not that important. So, that's how looking at the data, the kind of data the organization works, the kind of clients the organization deals in, the overall business the organization is or the vision the organization is working towards, that's how the ROI is achieved.
What is your advice for aspiring security professionals?
As I already said, the aspiring security professionals, those should have a concept and simply ask why for everything. If I have, and that's how I've learned over the period. I did a Six Sigma Lean courses and all, where this 5 why is one of the method where identifying a root cause for anything. If you ask why 5 times for anything, you would be able to square out the root cause for any problem. Like for example, if a person is late, or if there is a breach, let's say in the context, if there is a breach, why there is a breach? Because the configuration was there. Why the configuration was not well intact? Because we didn't have that level of codes. Why we didn't have that level of codes? Because that level of training wasn't there. Why that level of training wasn't there? Because that level of vision wasn't there. So I would be able to identify, square upon the root cause of a particular breach or any instance, anything, asking why. So that's the simplest mantra, where ask why, and that's how we should look at any aspiration into security, as well as security privacy nowadays goes hand in hand.
How critical is privacy in the emerging technologies era?
Well, privacy as well as security both are highly critical in the emerging technology era. Let's say IoT, let's take an example. IoT, to understand simply any device that is connected through internet. We have air conditioners where we get a lot of advertisement nowadays where air conditions can be remotely accessed. We have lighting systems which can be remotely through apps. So that's all IoT. These are connected through internet utilizing the Wi-Fi. Primarily the Wi-Fi in a home environment. We have CCTVs, we have smart TVs, all of them, to start with from an IoT as an example. These tool sets, these trends, these applications are completely relying on internet and specific configuration within IoT environment to get connected and collaborate. However, let's say a person compromises the CCTV of say, let's say a vague example, let's say CCTVs of Pentagon being connected over IoT, I would have, if I have the access of those CCTVs, I would still be able to capture very confidential movements and information. Likewise, any device that is there that is connected, bulbs, air conditioners, refrigerators, all of that, these can easily be controlled through a third party unless and until the entire, again, by design, if the security is not embedded into it, it may not be the case that the problem may lie within the IoT, the entire setup. It may be the problem on the Wi-Fi that it is writing, a simplest Wi-Fi which is very vulnerable as always. Wi-Fi is something which is very easy and common to break out. However, there are further configurations within IoT which can solve these problems. Next, if we talk about artificial intelligence, we have deep learning algorithms. I'm actually researching onto these areas. I'm writing a book which would be out next year. The book title is Security and Privacy in AI. So it would be out internationally. So the research, the outcome of that research is the privacy. For example, the let's say a hospital has data which is confidential, that runs under compliance of HIPAA and all. The data would be patient confidential information. Now that data, if that goes to a third party, which is per se an insurance organization, they would only need the information around the age and particular aspects. However, if we shared the complete data, the privacy and all of those factors goes for a toss. With all the compliance and important aspects coming into play, this is where differential privacy comes into place. The solutions that are there, where we add or the solution is to add additional noise into those particular encryption. If we encrypt the entire data and send it to the next party, let's say insurance organization, they would decrypt it and then work on that particular solution or a particular data, but still be accessible to the other information. If we use differential privacy or homomorphic encryption, what homomorphic encryption does, it only encrypts the specific aspect or the specific data, add some additional noise so that the sender and recipient only have the specific noise code, then that gets decoded, it gets subtracted from the overall communication. And so from my aspect, I will be sending the entire data encrypted. From your end, you would be able to decrypt only the data which is useful for your processing as a third party, let's say an insurance organization. If we look at AI, if we look at driverless cars, there are various fooling aspects where a stop signal, let's say a driverless car is running and there is a stop signal which identifies and stops. If I add some noise onto those signals, the car would not identify those signals and it will continue from that intersection and there would be accident that may happen. The overrule or the protection around those is these driverless cars are further configured with a next layer of again these signals passed on. I mean, there are more detailed configuration and understanding around it, but that goes to a next layer where security and privacy is highly important into digital or deep learning or let's say IoT or analytics everywhere. Security and privacy would be a key enabler, and for example, Tesla would not be successful unless until we have security into the design. So overall, for the future digital transformation, security plays a very critical role, and everybody aspiring into security or privacy domain, it's not a specific skill, it's actually a language. Anybody and everybody would be or is required to understand and know about it. Even if I am a math teacher, if I am an English teacher, I should still be able to understand the security aspects. Likewise, if I am a solution architect, if I am a networks architect, if I am a cloud architect, it's not necessary there would be a separate security team to look at into these aspects. It should be me as an individual architect, as a subject matter expert, understanding the conceptualities and criticalities of security and then design those products and services.
Well, with this, we wrap up our Fireside chat. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable inputs with us, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson, for your valuable insights.